The cold silence of space hung over the orbiting junkyard like a blanket of rust and old secrets. Broken ships floated in slow circles, metal arms and shattered engines drifting aimlessly. Somewhere in the middle of all this space trash, a small ship moved carefully, like a cat walking through glass. Inside the old salvage vessel, a human man named Dax checked his scanners. He wasn't part of any fleet. He wasn't rich. He was just a salvager, someone who collected scraps and sold them for credits. Didn't wear fancy armor. His ship didn't even have weapons. But he was sharp, and he knew how to survive, where others wouldn't dare go. Today, he was in Zone 9. This area was older than most, abandoned after a war no one talked about anymore. Most ships didn't come here. The radiation was too high in some places, and the silence was too thick. But Dax didn't care. Old junk meant better parts. Better parts meant more credits. And credits meant food. As he flew low over a large debris field, something blinked on his screen, faint, almost invisible. A weak power signature. Strange. Odd. Dax muttered, adjusting his course. He drifted closer to the signal and slowed down. There, stuck between two broken cargo crates, was something shiny. Not metal, not a ship part, no. It was a small silver pod. Round, sealed, and cracked. About the size of a cryo capsule, he floated down in his suit and used his magnetic boots to land. A small hiss escaped the capsule as he touched it. It had a tag one that made Dax frown. Bio-waste, do not salvage. Dax narrowed his eyes. Bio-waste? Then why is it still warm? His scanner beeped. Inside the capsule, the temperature was stable, low oxygen. Actable life signs. He hesitated. Most people would leave it. The tag clearly said it was trash. Dangerous. Maybe. But something felt wrong. That the capsule had been thrown here on purpose. Hidden in junk so no one would notice, he reached out slowly and pressed the manual release. The hatch hissed open with a burst of cold vapor. Inside, a girl lay still. Her skin was light blue. Her hair was silver white, tangled and dry. Thin arms. Bruises on her neck. She looked young, maybe in her late teens, if she were human. Her clothes were torn and strange, like hospital rags. Her chest rose and fell, just barely. She was breathing. Dax blinked. She's alive. He knelt beside her. His fingers touched her wrist-weak pulse. Whoever she wasn't dead. Not yet. She opened her eyes slowly purple, glowing faint like starlight. She looked straight at him. Then her lips moved. Please, don't send me back. Dax's heart skipped. Her voice was dry, scared. She didn't speak perfect English, but it was enough. She was conscious, alive, afraid. He looked at the tag again. Bio-waste, he whispered. Someone dumped her like trash. He shook his head. No way I'm leaving you here. He picked her up gently. It was cold and light in his arms. As he walked back toward his ship, he looked around, suddenly feeling watched. The junkyard was too quiet. Inside the ship, he laid her down in the warming pod and sealed it. Oxygen levels rose. She closed her eyes again, unconscious but stable. Dax sat nearby, staring at her. Questions filled his mind. Who was she? Why was she thrown away? And who had the power to mark a living girl as waste? He checked the capsule's data logs. They were wiped. No name, no origin. Just one last entry. Test Subject 7, terminated. Disposed discreetly? Dax froze. Terminated. Then why was she still breathing? He opened his comlink, trying to call his nearest contact. Static, of course, he muttered. No signal out here. A small drone head entered the junkyard. It wasn't just scanning the field. It was heading straight for the spot where he found the capsule. Dax didn't wait. He pulled up the thrusters, fired the engines, and got out of Zone 9 fast. As the ship sped through the debris field, he glanced back one last time. The drone hovered where the capsule had been. Then it exploded. No trace left. They really wanted her gone, Dax whispered. He turned his gaze to the sleeping alien girl. her soft breathing steady in the pod. "They threw you away like garbage," he said quietly. "But I see you." Outside, the stars rolled past his window, silent and endless, and deep in the dark. Something had just noticed he took her. Asterisk, the inside of Dax's ship was dim and cramped. It was filled with old wires, loose parts, and the hum of old machines keeping things alive. The ship wasn't pretty. It didn't need to be. It flew, it hid, and it had kept him breathing for years. That was enough. But now someone else was inside, someone not human. The alien girl lay in the warming pod, wrapped in a thermal blanket. Her skin had more color now, soft blue glow instead of the pale shade from before. Her chest rose in slow, steady breaths. The pod beeped, showing good vitals. For now, she was safe. Dax sat on a nearby crate, his eyes never leaving her. Sipped cold tea from a metal cup, thinking hard. She'd called herself nothing. She'd begged him not to send her back. Why? He pulled the chair closer. "Hey," he said softly. "Can you hear me?"
Hey.
Her eyes fluttered open. She blinked once. Then twice. Her gaze locked on him, confused, afraid. She flinched back into the blanket. "Easy," Dax said. He raised both hands slowly. "You're safe here." She stared at him. Her mouth moved silently before a whisper came out. "Where am I?" "My ship," Dax replied. "I pulled you from the junk zone. You were in bad shape." Her hand touched the edge of the blanket. She looked down at herself, as if surprised she still had form. "They threw me away." Dax leaned forward. "Why would they do that? Who are you?" The girl closed her eyes for a moment. Then, in a broken voice, she said, "My name was Lyra. I was made in a lab for a reason." "But I didn't pass." Dax frowned. "A lab? You mean like engineered?" She nodded, slow and small. "They called us future tools. They wanted soldiers, or servants, or things. I didn't grow right. They said I was soft, slow, not perfect." Her voice shook at the word. "It's not perfect. So they just tossed you out. They said I was faulty." Her hands trembled. "They said I didn't deserve a name." Dax felt something heavy settle in his chest. He'd seen awful things in space. Pirates, slavers, even black market organ trade. But this was cruelty, pretending to be science. "I'm not leaving you," he said firmly. She looked at him, eyes wide. "Why?" "'Cause you're alive," he said. "That's enough." Her lips parted, but no words came. Only silence. That silence said more than any words could. Later, while she rested, Dax went back to the flight deck and checked his systems. His comms were still jammed. Someone was blocking long-range contact. He tapped through the logs on the capsule. Most were wiped clean. But one file had slipped through. He opened it. Project Ver, Test 7. Failure. Discarded per protocol. No recovery. A video file loaded. On screen, he saw a younger Lyra, eyes brighter, her posture strong. Scientists in clean suits walked around her like she was an object. They talked to each other, not her. "She lacks aggression," one said. "She hesitates to follow violent commands," another added. "Emotionally reactive, useless in combat. Disposal scheduled." Dax closed the file. Monsters, he thought. They weren't trying to build people, they were building weapons. Lyra had failed their tests because she had a heart. He went back to the pod. She was awake again, eyes on the ceiling. "Do you feel pain?" he asked. "Not in my body," she said softly. He pulled over a blanket and handed her a drink pack. "You passed the test that matters. You stayed human, even when they weren't." Hands trembled as she took the drink. Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered. Dax stood up fast. Power spike. He ran to the console. Something had pinged their location. A brief scan pulse. "They found us," he muttered. That was fast. He boosted shields and activated engine warm dash up. Lyra stepped in, weak but standing. "They'll come for me," Let them, Dax said without turning. I've got something they don't. She tilted her head. What? He smiled. Surprise. Then the ship rocked. A drone had arrived, a different one, this one shaped like a blade. With thrusters, it hovered outside the window. A red light blinked. It was scanning the ship. Dax powered weapons, then remembered he didn't have any. He was a scavenger, not a fighter. Lyra, he said quickly, can you do anything to mess with its signal? She stepped forward, her fingers glowing faintly. I think so. She touched a panel. The drone froze mid-scan. For a second, nothing happened. Then the drone burst into sparks, falling away like a broken toy. Dax turned to her. Shocked, she looked confused, almost afraid of herself. I didn't know I could do that. He stepped. Closer? You're more than they thought. Maybe more than you thought, too. She looked up at him. They'll send more. He nodded. Good. Let them come. But deep in his gut, Dax knew this was just the beginning. Space around them felt colder now. Dax watched from the cockpit as stars slipped by. The girl Lyra sat beside him, her arms wrapped around her knees, eyes fixed on the empty void outside. Her silver hair fell over her shoulder like soft wire. She hadn't said a word in 10 minutes, but Dax could feel it. She wasn't just scared, she was listening, waiting. They'll send more, right? He asked. She nodded, still not looking at him. That drone was just a scout. They're tracking my blood. My DNA gives off a code signal. It's how they find me. Dax leaned back in his chair. So what do they want now? Capture you? Kill you? She turned to him. Not capture, just erase. If someone learns I'm alive, it'll prove their program failed. Dax frowned. You mean the science project that made you? She looked down. It was Test 7. They called us adaptives. Designed to survive any world, any poison, any battlefield. But I refused to fight, said I. Was defective? Because you had feelings? He asked. Because I cried, she whispered. Dax stared at her for a moment. Then he stood, crossed the room, and pulled open a dusty locker. Inside were old tools, metal scraps, and a dusty bottle of black ink. He tossed her a marker. Right. Your name on the wall? She blinked. What? My ship, he said, pointing at the wall full of scratched names and numbers. Only people who belong here write their name. Her hands shook. But then, slowly, she wrote, Lyra. The letters were uneven, but bold. Dax nodded. Now you're not trash. You're crew. A soft smile tugged at her lips for the first time. Then alarm screamed. Dax spun around. Long-range scan. A sleek ship had entered their trail. Fast, quiet, no lights. Military design, but not government. Black market or secret lab hunters? Lyra's eyes widened. That's one of theirs. How do you know? She didn't answer with words. She lifted her hand, and the moment she did, her palm glowed again. A strange hum filled the air. I feel them, she said. They're here for me. Dax dropped into the pilot's seat and punched the engines. Hold on. His ship groaned as it sped through a debris field. Broken solar wings, burned out escape pods, drifting metal arms, all part of a forgotten battlefield. It's a perfect place to hide. Or die. They'll catch us, Lyra whispered. Not if I'm smart, muttered. He flew low, dragging the ship behind a crumbling destroyer. His fingers moved fast, rerouting energy, faking signals. Lyra watched him in awe. You know all this junk by heart. I've lived in junkyards longer than you've been alive, he replied. They're not traps to me, they're puzzles. He smiled faintly. But it didn't last. Behind them, the hunter ship crept closer. It wasn't shooting. It was watching, waiting. Why don't they attack? Dax asked. They want to see where I go, Lyra said. Then they'll erase everyone. I talked to... Dax cursed under his breath. He slammed the controls and dived through a shattered freighter. His ship scraped metal, sparks flew. But it worked. They lost sight for a second. Just enough. He sent out a decoy beacon from an old escape pod. Then angled hard left, toward a derelict. Mining base on a nearby moon? They'll follow the pod, he whispered, but Lyra was still pale. What if they don't? Dax didn't answer. He docked at the base long abandoned, full of dust and shadows. Thick metal doors closed behind them. The silence felt heavy. Inside, Dax carried a small pulse rifle. He gave Lyra a flashlight. Stay close. They walked through dark halls. Lyra stumbled a little. Dax caught her arm. She looked up at him. Why are you helping me? He didn't stop walking. Because I don't throw people away. They found an old control room and powered up the shields. Lyra sat on the floor, breathing hard. Then her body glowed again, faint, but brighter this time. Dax turned. Lyra, she held up her hand. Something's changing. Her skin pulsed with energy. Small lights traced her veins. I think my body is adapting. Adapting to what? He asked. She looked up, to fear. Dax watched in silence. She wasn't breaking. She was becoming. Just then the scanner blinked. A second ship entered the system. It wasn't the same hunter ship. This one was bigger. Lyra's voice dropped. That's the collector. The one that collects corpses. Dax raised his weapon. Not today. But deep inside, he knew this wasn't a rescue mission. It was a cleanup. And they were next on the list. Asterisk the lights inside the old mining. Base flickered again. Dust floated in the air like forgotten ash. Outside, under a cracked sky dome, the stars kept spinning, but inside, Dax and Lyra stood still. They didn't breathe too loud. They didn't speak. The sound of approaching engines was already in their bones. Lyra stood near the old control panel, her arms crossed tightly. Her skin shimmered softly now, not glowing like before, but not normal either. She was changing piece by piece. Dax checked the base's scanners. That ship's still above us, just hovering. Waiting, Lyra whispered. Watching if we try to run. Dax turned to her. Then maybe we don't run. You'll die if you fight them. Dax raised a brow. And you? I don't. Know what I'll do? She said. That scares me more. He stepped closer. Then we face it together. Lyra looked at him. Why? Because, he said, we're both broken junk at least that's what the galaxy thinks. But together maybe we're not trash anymore. For a second she smiled, then the wall panel blinked red. A message popped up on the screen, encrypted. But Lyra read it instantly. They're jamming your ship. They don't want you leaving with me. They're locking this place down. Dax didn't blink. Good thing I still have surprises. He pulled open the wall near the floor. Behind it was an old mining shaft, vertical and narrow. There's a tunnel out. Leads to the ice side of the moon. No one knows about it. Only scavengers like me. And I've never told a soul. Until now. Lyra stared down the dark shaft. If we go in there, there's no light. No maps. You could get lost. Dax handed her a small device. That's the heart of my ship's AI. It pings once every 10 seconds. Quiet, low frequency. I'll follow it back up once we escape. She held it close, like it was something alive. Dax started down the ladder. Come on. They climbed. Into darkness. The tunnel closed behind them. Hours passed like whispers. Their boots crunched against ancient ice. Strange sounds echoed from deep below old machines, maybe. Or ghosts. Lyra whispered, I hear. Voices. Dax paused. What? Kind, not human, she said. Not words. Just feelings. Like hunger. Dax didn't reply. He turned on a small pulse light, barely enough to see. They kept moving. After what felt like forever, they reached a wide chamber. An old mining rover sat in the middle, dusty but intact. Dax grinned. Lucky day. He jumped inside and started the engine. After 2 shaky tries, it roared to life. They drove through tunnels, deeper into the unknown. But the deeper they went, the more the air changed. Lyra sat silently, her hands pressed to the side of her head. They're speaking again, she whispered. The ones who made me. I think they're using my blood to track me. Dax clenched the controls tighter. I still think you're theirs. I'm not, she said sharply. I never was. Then ahead a wall of ice. No doors, no way out. Dead end. Dax muttered. Lyra stepped out and walked toward the ice. Her hands began to glow again, but different this time, blue fire. Traced her veins, she touched the ice, hissed, then cracked, then shattered behind it light. A cave exit, glowing with energy. It's not natural. Dax stepped beside her, stunned. What is this? Don't know, she said. But it feels safe. They walked into the light. The cave opened into a canyon filled with crystals that pulsed like stars. Old alien tech was built into the walls. Screens lit up as Lyra walked by. She didn't flinch. Is this your origin? Dax asked. She looked around slowly. No, but maybe this was for people like me. Then, the ship above the moon moved. Dax's scanner beeped. They're dropping something. A pod. No, Lyra said. Not a pod. A burn drone. Outside the cave, a streak of red fire fell toward the surface. They're going to wipe this place clean, she said, even if it means killing. Dax grabbed her arm. Then we give them something else to follow. He pulled a data spike from his belt, one linked to her blood tag. You think you can fake a signal? She nodded, already taking it. They shoved the spike into the mining rover's engine core. Then they programmed it to drive back toward. The upper tunnels dashed fast. As the rover rolled away, its signal bounced upward. The burn drone followed it like a hunting hound. Boom. The cave shook. Lyra stared at the exit. You risked everything for me. Dax looked at her. I didn't save you. You just gave me a reason to fight again. But as the dust cleared, another signal blinked coming from deep below. Someone or something was waking up. And it wasn't human. The canyon had stopped shaking, but the silence that followed felt worse. Dax stood near the glowing crystal walls, holding a broken scanner. Lyra sat by a stone ledge, her arms folded across her knees. Her silver hair drifted slightly as strange winds moved through the cavern. They were safe for now, but deep below, something ancient had stirred. You hear it too, right? Dax asked quietly. Lyra didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on the cave floor. Beneath the stone, something pulsed like a sleeping heartbeat. Slow, deep, and alive. She finally whispered, It's not a machine. It's something older. Something watching us. Dax tightened his grip on the scanner. That's great. First you're hunted. Now we're being stared at by cave ghosts. They're not ghosts, she said. They remember pain. Dax knelt beside her. You okay? No. Her voice cracked. I'm scared. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Good. Fear means you still care. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. You don't understand. I was designed to obey, to follow orders, even if it meant death. But you, she looked at him, really looked. You don't tell me what to do. You just trust me. Dax gave a small, tired smile. Because you've earned it. Suddenly, his broken scanner sparked once, then showed a red flash. They're coming back, he said. Another drop pod. Closer this time. Then we run again, she asked. Dax shook his head. We can't. The signal's too strong. They've locked onto this cave. They know you're here now. Lyra stood slowly. Then they'll kill us both. No, Dax said. They'll try. There's a difference. He grabbed a power coil from his belt and threw it at the nearest energy crystal. The crystal flickered, then hummed louder, reacting to the human tech. What are you doing? Lyra asked. Setting a trap, he said. They're expecting. You too. Hide. Let's flip the game. She watched as he connected to more coils. Electricity sparked between the walls. Strange symbols lit up ones neither of them could read. Dax nodded in approval. This place isn't just old. It's wired for defense. I think they used to guard something here. We'll borrow it. Lyra stepped closer. You shouldn't do this for me. I'm not, he said. She hesitated, then reached into her sleeve. She pulled out a thin needle made of alien alloy. This was inside my skin, she said. A control pin. I think I can use it to finish your circuit. Dax stared at the thin metal. that was in you. Guess. They called it a failsafe, she said. I call it a leash. He didn't speak, just took it carefully and connected it to the crystal. Mesh. The circuit glowed. The walls rumbled. Outside, the sound of engines grew louder. Drop pods fell from orbit like burning spears. Then one hit the ground hard. The shockwave blasted wind into the cave mouth. Dax raised his weapon. Showtime. Out. Of the dust walked something tall and smooth. A figure in black armor, its face hidden behind a glass mask. One arm held a plasma cutter, the other glowed with red energy. It wasn't a soldier, it was a collector. The voice from its suit echoed like static. Return Subject 7, or be neutralized. Lyra stepped forward before Dax could stop her. I am not Subject 7, she said clearly. I have a name. The collector didn't react. Dax moved in front of her, raising his weapon. You'll have to go through me, accepted the machine. Said coldly, it fired. The blast hit Dax square in the chest. He flew back, crashed against the cave wall. Smoke rose from his vest. He groaned, barely moving. Lyra screamed. She ran to him, dropped to her knees. Dax, stay awake, please. His eyes blinked slowly. Still here, he coughed. Collector. She looked up fire. In her eyes now, you hurt him. The collector aimed again, but Lyra stood, her hands glowing like twin stars. You call me broken, she said, her voice shaking the very stones. But I'm more than you ever were, the crystals responded. The circuit lit, and the cave itself screamed. Blue light exploded from the walls, swallowing the collector. It didn't just blast it apart, it unmade it. When the light faded only, dust remained. Lyra fell to her knees beside Dax again. You shielded me, she whispered. He smiled, coughing. That's what humans do. But I don't want to lose you. You won't, he said. You're strong now, much stronger then. Me. Tears ran down her cheeks. No, I'm strong. Because of you. She held his hand tight, her glow pulsing softly between them. But outside the cave above, the Muna new fleet arrived. One not for capture but war. Asterisk, the moon's surface trembled. Above it, black ships stretched across the sky like scars. Silent, cold, watching, they didn't send warnings this time. No messages, no demands. They had already decided everything below must be erased. Inside the crystal cave, the air was warm now, almost alive. The crystals pulsed gently like breathing. Hearts. Lyra knelt beside Dax, her fingers still locked around his hand. He was alive, barely. The burn across his chest had seared through his jacket. His skin bubbled beneath a temporary healing patch she had placed with trembling hands. You shouldn't have taken that hit, she whispered. You shouldn't be this soft, he whispered. Back, smiling through the pain, she let out a shaky breath, half laugh, half sob. You're impossible. I'm human, he said. Same thing. Then the ground shook again. Dust fell from above like rain. One of the crystals near them cracked. They're coming, she said. Dax groaned, trying to sit up. How many? She closed her eyes. Her skin shimmered, again then brighter. Veins glowing, fingers twitching with energy. She felt them above. The fleet. The hatred. The cold calculation of beings who saw her as broken data, not life. Many, she whispered. Even if we run, we'll find others like me. Destroy everything. Dax leaned forward, wincing. Then don't run. Stand. Lyra's eyes snapped open. I don't know how to fight. Yes, you do, he said. You just need to believe that being different doesn't make you weak. She looked at her hands. Once they had only trembled. Now they sparked. Then the floor beneath them cracked wide and deep. Something below was waking up. Lyra stood quickly, pulling Dax to his feet. Come with me. They moved deeper into the cave. Each step lit up symbols on the floor. Not just lights, but words. Lyra didn't know how, but she could read them. Guardian Vault. Access only 2 carriers of spark. They stopped at a wide door shaped like a giant tear. Lyra placed her glowing hand on the center. The door hissed open. Inside was not just another cave. It was a room built by something older than memory. Walls shimmered with ancient tech. In the center stood a large crystal throne and, floating above it, a sphere of light. Sphere and humming. "It's alive," Lyra whispered. Dax leaned on her shoulder. "What is it?" "Psst," she said slowly. "It's a core. From the species that built this place." They weren't trying to make weapons. They were trying to protect the future. As they stepped forward, the sphere pulsed. Suddenly, Lyra fell to her knees. Visions hit her, flashes of time, of other children like her, created and cast aside, scattered across the stars. Lost, forgotten, some dead. Some still hiding. She saw their pain. She saw herself sitting among them, and then she saw him, Dax, standing behind her. Always behind her. Her body shook. The crystal sphere floated toward her. It didn't speak in words. It spoke in feeling. Except the spark. Become. The key, her heart raced. Dax called out Lyra. She looked at him one last time. Then she stepped into the light. The energy wrapped around her, not like chains, but like arms, not cold, warm, safe. She didn't scream. She didn't flinch. She became. The crystal burst in light. The walls glowed. Ancient circuits reignited, and Lyra floated back down to the floor, glowing like a living star. Her eyes opened, shining white gold. Her hair moved on its own, lifted by invisible waves of energy. Dax stared. "Lyra." She stepped forward, power humming with each footstep. "I'm still me," she said softly. "But now, I remember who I was meant to be." Ceiling shattered, enemy dropships breaking through. Black armored troops descended on cables, aiming weapons. Dax aimed his rifle butt before he could fire. Lyra raised her hand. The entire ceiling erupted in light. Energy poured from her fingers. Like lightning, hitting each armored enemy midair, they froze, shook, then crumbled into dust. Dax blinked, lowering his rifle slowly. "Remind me never to make you angry." Lyra turned toward him, her glow softening. "You made me brave." "That's different." But she wasn't done. She stepped outside the cave mouth, into the cold wind of the moon's surface. The fleet above saw her, detected her rising energy levels, and began to fire, but this time, she didn't hide. She raised both arms. The sky caught fire. Beams of crystal energy shot up from the canyon, slicing through one warship after another. No tracking, no targeting. It was as if the moon itself was fighting beside her. Dax stepped out beside her. Watching with wide eyes, she whispered, "They called me worthless." He answered, "And now they run from you." Above, the enemy fleet broke formation. The lead ship tried to send a retreat signal. Too late. Lyra raised her hand once, more than stopped. Her glow dimmed. "I won't become them," she said. "No. Killing what's already broken." She sent a final pulse, not of destruction, but of silence. Every remaining ship powered down. Engines stopped. Weapons melted. They drifted. Powerless. Defeated. Not by war. By mercy. Dax walked up beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're not a weapon," he said. "You're hope." But far across the stars, one last lab received her pulse. Someone whispered she lived. Then we failed. Again. The moon was quiet now. Where enemy ships once hovered like death above, only drifting shadows remained. Lifeless warcraft spun slowly in orbit, their engines cold, their weapons dead. Lyra stood at the edge of the canyon, her bare feet on stone. The wind tugging at her silver hair. Her glow had faded, but something deeper had awakened in her eyes. She was calm now, not afraid, not lost. Dax sat nearby on a crate pulled from the ruins, watching her with quiet awe. His chest still hurt, but she had patched him up with a healing gel from the crystal vault. He was bruised but breathing. "You're not glowing anymore," he said. She looked back at him with a small smile. "I don't need to. You sure?" He joked. "I kind of like the floating light show." She shook her head gently. "That wasn't who I am. That was a reminder of what I could be if I chose to be more than what they made." Dax leaned forward, elbows on his knees. So, what now? You've got the power of an ancient alien. Vault. You can melt ships. You saved this moon. Where do you go after that? Lyra looked up at the sky. I don't want revenge. I want to find the others. The ones like me who were thrown away. She turned to face him. Will you come with? Me. Dax blinked. Me, I'm just a junk runner. You're the first person who saw me as more than trash. He gave me a name again, a voice that means everything. He stood slowly rubbing his ribs. Well, I do have a ship. Mostly held together with duct tape, but sure, why not? They both smiled, and for a moment, the galaxy didn't feel so dark. But before they could board the skiff that brought them back to the surface, something beeped inside Dax's jacket. He pulled out his emergency signal scanner. What is it? Lyra asked. Dax stared at the screen. A signal had been received from the capsule, the one she came in. That's not possible, he muttered. I destroyed the signal tag. Lyra stepped closer. The capsule was empty. It was just me. No, Dax said, eyes narrowing. The capsule wasn't designed for one. They ran back across the canyon, back down the carved path, back into the cave. The wreckage from the first battle had shifted slightly. Some of the crystal wall had crumbled. The capsule they thought was broken now glowed again. Soft, faint. Alive, Dax stared. It's online. Lyra reached out slowly. The hatch hissed. Inside, curled tight, small body shivering, was another child. Blue skin. White hair, younger. Maybe 7 or 8. Eyes opened slowly. Identical to Lyra's, Dax whispered. There were 2 of you. Lyra knelt, tears filling her eyes. No, not just 2. She turned to Dax, her voice shaking. I wasn't the first. I was just the one who woke up. The child stared at her, then whispered something in a forgotten tongue. Lyra nodded, and replied softly in the same language. She says her name is Cell. She doesn't know how long she's been asleep. Dax scratched the back of his head. Is she like you? No, Lyra said. She's stronger. The air in the cave shifted again. Not dangerous, but different. Cell's hand glowed slightly, not blue, but golden. A different spark. Dax took a step back. If they find out this one's alive, they won't, Lyra said firmly. Because we won't hide. Not anymore. He met her gaze. You're building something, aren't you? She nodded. Not an army. Outside, the wind began to howl again, but it no longer carried fear. Just a signal. One that flew out from the cave like light. Not a scream, not a warning, but a call. Far across the stars and labs. In prisons and hidden corners of forgotten worlds, other children like Lyra lifted their heads. Their skin glowed faintly. Their hearts stirred. One looked up from under rubble. One blinked inside a sealed tank. One touched a crack in her collar and whispered, She's alive. The call had reached them, and for the first time in their short lives, they knew they weren't alone. Asterisk, in a dark room light years away. Scientists watched the pulse flicker across his screen. His hands shook as he poured himself a drink. Project Verda, he whispered. They survived. He turned to another figure in the shadows. What do we do? The figure smiled slowly, then. We begin phase 2.